Robotronic.
Hello and welcome everyone to my first episode of my new little show, Robotronix Talks. On this show, I plan on talking about some builds I'm working on, things I plan on working on, 3D prints or 3D projects that I want to do. But I guess I'll start this off by kind of talking a little bit about myself and how I got into doing all of this. So I like to think that I've always been kind of creative in a sense of kind of like building and builds and stuff like that. The earliest I can remember for building was when I was a really young, probably like 8 to 11 years old. I used to be really into Bionicles, and I used to buy them all the time whenever I could. I'd get my parents to buy them whenever I could because I was 8 and I did not have money. And I always kind of like to I liked repurposing parts from some Bionicles onto a new one. Like I used to have this one. I don't remember which one it is now, but it had wings. It was supposed to have wings on the back, and I looked at them and I would say, well, this looks more like kind of like a sword, or I could turn this into like a scythe. So I would take other parts and make a scythe, and this character would have a scythe instead of wings, or he'd have like a double-sided, sword or backhanded sword, something like that. And then I took it a step further, and I actually kind of started making my own weapons for my Bionicles, and that is more of in the sense of I literally took toothpicks and glue, just normal Elmer's glue, and I would kind of break some of the toothpicks up and make a handle and glue them together, and I would kind of take like 4 or 5 whole toothpicks and glue those together and glue it all together, and now I have this like sword, so I could make my own little things. And that was really the extent of me building my weapons for my Bionicles. But it was always something that I thought was kind of fascinating, because to me, it was like kind of like building my own accessories to my toys, which is really cool, because I wouldn't say we were like poor. We did get by. My family was able to get by, but it definitely wasn't a luxury for us to kind of be able to always go out and buy toys, if that makes sense. So that was something that I like to do, because if I felt like I was able to kind of make something from nothing that added on to stuff that I already had, that let my imagination run wild. And then I did that for a little bit. And then a couple years later, I was homeschooled for a year, for 7th grade, and the school program that I went through, sent me all the supplies that I needed, and one of the supplies was, clay, like modeling clay. And, I am a huge Kingdom Hearts fan, and that's what I think about the time I really got into, Kingdom Hearts as a series. And I think at that time, Kingdom Hearts 2, I think, was the game that had just kind of come out at the time. So I was always really fascinated with the Organization 13 members and their weapons, because I thought their weapons were so cool. And so I used to take that modeling clay, and I would take pieces of it, and I would like flatten it out to like a thickness that I wanted, and I kind of carved, I guess, or cut out the organization members' weapons out of clay. And they weren't big; they were probably like 3 inches tall or 3 inches long, whatever. Nothing crazy. And then I would take those and let them dry. I'd carve like some of the little designs in there. And that was just something for me to have. I was never able to get it to I wasn't competent enough at the time to make it work for say my Bionicles or any other toys that I had at the time. But it was still cool because that was another one of my first experiences in crafting, which was really exciting. Now that I look at it, I guess I've always kind of been creative in that sense. Unfortunately, I don't have any of those still today. Those got lost, as I grew up, or, when I moved out of my parents' house, I'm sure I lost them. But I did make a couple, I think, out of clay. I think I made, for anyone who knows Kingdom Hearts, I made Vexen's Shield, Marluxia's Scythe, I think I made at one point. What else? I made Syax's Claymore, and I think I made Lexius's axe sword or tomahawk. I've never known what it actually is. I think a lot of online websites say it's an axe sword. So I made his axe sword out of clay. And like I said, they were never pretty, but they were, just something that kind of helped me kind of do crafting. It let me be creative, I guess, in a sense. And then I think my first real experience with actually crafting was that Halloween as well, when Kingdom Hearts 2 came out. I was a huge fan of Roxas, one of the main characters in that game, or at the beginning of the game. And I wanted to be him for Halloween. But I obviously didn't have a Keyblade. So my dad actually had a friend that lived down the street from us that did some woodworking, and he made me a Keyblade out of wood. And it was nothing pretty. Realistically, he probably put it together in over a weekend. But it was really cool, and that was really my first real, I guess, I keep saying that's my first real glimpse, but that was my first real experience with crafting something for me. And the Keyblade I actually still have to this day. It's actually sitting right here next to me. But that was really cool. So then I learned, wow, you can actually make your own, basically you can make your own toys, life-size toys. So then that was like that. And then I don't think I really did anything kind of following years, because I got really, I don't want to say into school because I wasn't the best student, but my next real experience was when I moved out of my parents' house and I moved to Las Vegas, where I worked, and I did maintenance and some small construction. So I kind of got into a little bit of woodworking. And that was also kind of from someone that I knew back in California, because he was really big into woodworking. He used to make a bunch of furniture, tables, stuff like that. It was actually really cool looking back on it. But I kind of tried my hand on that too, and it was nothing ever really spectacular, amazing. Really, I would honestly argue and say it was a lot of knickknacks. I made a box for my Copic markers. I made a stand for my phone and my iPad, which at the time I was stoked about. And I said, this is the greatest thing I've ever made. When it was realistically, it was a 4x4 piece of wood that I cut at a slight angle, and then I took a little piece of scrap wood and I glued it to the block, and it just worked. I have that too still somewhere. I mean, that was only a few years ago, But I think what I really enjoyed is that I stained it, and then I learned how to make this like really, really nice wax out of beeswax and linseed oil, boiled linseed oil, and it made a really nice finish. And I put that on there, and it gave it a nice little shine. So I think that was really kind of like what I was most excited about for that. But it was stuff like that. Nothing really ever crazy. I did that for the longest time, and then I moved to Texas, and that's when I really started kind of delving into actually building and builds and like making replicas from games and things like that. One of the first things I built kind of for me, like that you could use for cosplay and things of that nature, was the Hylian shield from The Legend of Zelda, because around that time I had just gotten the Switch and I bought Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which was honestly the main reason I bought the Switch for me and my girlfriend. I bought that game and I bought Super Mario Odyssey, I think. And those are the two games I literally bought the Switch for. But Breath of the Wild was actually probably one of my first Zelda games, and I loved it. And I kind of wanted to try my hand at building the Hylian shield. So I took some, like, I don't even know what kind of foam it is. It's like the kind of foam you would get at you would package something in, like in a box. I took that kind of foam. I really want to say open cell foam, but I don't think that's what it is. But I took a bunch of that foam from work because we were throwing it out anyway. And I bought some contact cement. And at the time, I was staying at my girlfriend's apartment. I was kind of in the middle of moving out of where I was and finding my own place. So I was staying at her place for the most part. And I would work on it at night when she was asleep in the bathroom, because I didn't want to wake her up because like the fumes of the contact cement. So I literally kind of freehanded a very small Hylian shield. It was completely tiny, but that was my first real build, I guess. Like life size, like a kid could use it. Honestly, it's probably more for a kid than it would be for an adult. But I was really proud of it. I have a friend that was, I'm sure he still is. He LARPs, which is a live action role playing, if you don't know. He LARPs, and he was kind of talking to me about it, and I was like, oh wow, that's really interesting. And he also builds his own, I'm pretty sure he's made like weapons for his character. So I was really excited to show him. So I took my shield to work one day, and I think he saw me because he kind of like ran away, and I was looking for him, and I was super stoked. Sorry, to show him, and I was like looking around, and next thing I know, he like jumped over a counter and swung at me with like a foam sword that we had. And we play fought. It was really, really fun. And I learned that my craftsmanship at the time was not great because the shield broke. One of the straps that goes on the arms broke off. The glue didn't hold. But it was so much fun, and that was really great. And I really enjoyed that, actually. And then I think around that time, Infinity War came out. Avengers Infinity War. And I watched it, loved it, and I really wanted an Infinity Gauntlet so badly. And I remember kind of like, I was awake one night, my girlfriend was asleep. I was kind of like, I don't know what to do. So I went on YouTube and I was like, DIY Infinity Gauntlet. What can I find? And I found this channel called Odin Makes, which if you haven't watched it, you should definitely check it out. he makes a lot of great builds, and it's just really amazing. So if you haven't checked it out yet, or if you haven't heard of him, I would definitely check it out. The channel's called Odin Makes. But yeah, so I watched that. I watched him do his own Infinity Gauntlet, and I was like, oh my god, this is actually amazing. I think I woke up my girlfriend and was like, check it out, look at this. She was not happy. But so then I watched that video, and then I went out and I bought like floor mats. I bought he used styrene plastic for the fingertips, and I think for the knuckles, if I remember correctly. But I did not know where to find styrene plastic. So I improvised, and I used PVC pipe. He used PVC pipe. I'm so sorry. He used PVC pipe, a really thin PVC pipe for the knuckles, and he used styrene plastic for the fingertips. So, but I did not remember at the time of me buying the supplies, remember what type of PVC. So I just bought I think a standard thickness PVC pipe, which was too thick. And then for the styrene plastic, I literally went to Walmart and bought one of their I think it was like beware of dog signs, because that was a plastic that was really thin, and I was pretty confident that I could heat it up with a heat gun and then mold it to the glove, which it did. It worked fine. I think it would have been a better quality if I'd have had styrene plastic, but I did not know where to get it. So I did that, and that build took me probably a solid month, only because like I did it sporadically. I had to keep watching the video to see kind of like how he did it, and then I didn't have like a real place to work. So at this time, my family, my mom, dad, brothers, they had just recently moved to Texas, as well. Like they live like 10 minutes away from where I do, but I used like a spare room, and I had a cardboard mat for a cutting mat, because I didn't have anything to do it with, and that was actually really fun. It was actually a really fun build. And then for the Infinity Stones, I wanted to cast them, so I went out, bought a resin casting kit, and some paint to get the colors right. And I casted the stones, and that I think also took kind of like the longest time, because like, if you've never casted with resin, it really does depend on how long it cures, depending on what brand you get, stuff like that. If you do it properly, because if your mixtures aren't right, they don't cure properly, and they get soft, and they're just basically useless. So that, I think, was probably the longest part too. I think casting the stones. I also didn't have a lot of molds. I didn't have a lot of money to really work with, so I could only do like 2 I think 2 at a time. So I did that, and then I finished it, painted it. I was super stoked. I brought it to work. I showed everyone, and they loved it. So that was really cool, and that was Odin Makes is actually a really huge inspiration of me, why I build, why I made this channel, because I just was like, wow, that's awesome. Like I really hope that I can help people that also want to get into this, building and all that stuff, cosplay. I really hope that that's something, my channel is something that can help them, because I don't have like a lot of resource. Like I don't have anything special, I guess. I literally, a lot of the foam that when I started out was EVA floor mat foam that I had to sand down, because I could never find anything that was like smooth on both sides. Like literal craft foam that you can get from like Michael's or Hobby Lobby, X-Acto knives from Walmart, stuff like that. Like I didn't have a lot of resources to start off with, and that's kind of what I wanted to show someone that wants to do it but doesn't think they have, I guess, the money for like the equipment. Like, it doesn't. I did it with literal. I literally started with nothing, and now I'm happy to say, like, I know now where I can get foam, like good sheets of foam. Like, now Hobby Lobby and Michaels, they both have like EVA cosplay foam, which is really nice. So I'll go and I'll buy a bunch of that, every once in a while, and now I have all this foam that I can use. And then so that's really is the goal of the channel, of my channel, is to hopefully show somebody that wants to do this, like, you don't need to have a lot of money. Like, there are things you can do to really make it work if you really want to do it. And hopefully, like, I will be able to inspire someone to kind of pursue crafting and DIY building, like Odin from Odin Makes did for me. But then that was really the starting point of my, I guess, crafting career. Because then, from the Infinity Gauntlet, I think I did the Wakanda shields that he did. I did quite a few things. I did Stormbreaker. The Stormbreaker I was really proud of. That's probably one of my favorite builds that I've done. And that was probably about 2 years ago now. 2.5 years ago when I found his channel. Yeah, so that was how I really got into crafting. And then so then when it came to 3D printing, 3D printing is something I've always been fascinated with, as far back as probably 16, 17 years old. Like, I'm 25 now. I'm almost 26, actually. But 3D printing was always something cool because it was also just a form of building something from nothing, basically, So I remember being in, like, high school, and I'd want to build something. There were times in high school where I did want to build stuff, and I would, like, kind of Google, like, oh, how do I build this? How do I build this? And it would say, well, if you have a 3D printer, you can print these parts, and then you'll do everything else. And I was like, well, I don't have a 3D printer. I'm 17 years old. I think that was my first real introduction to 3D printing. So then I would go on YouTube and I would say DIY 3D printing, and I would see all these videos of just these time lapses of 3D printing, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever, and I still do. So that was something I really wanted to do for the longest time, and I'm really happy to say this year, it was the year I was finally able to afford my first 3D printer, which was I don't know the exact brand. I think it was called a Labist X1 mini printer. Very small printer. I got it on Amazon. It was like $150. It was like a 4x4 build plate, build size. But it was awesome. I was so excited when I got it in the mail. I think the first thing I really printed on it was a Bulbasaur for my girlfriend, because that's one of her favorite Pokemon is Bulbasaur, so I printed her a Bulbasaur. And then around that time, that's when quarantine happened, and that's when, like, we had a lot of people had to stay inside, or curfews and things like that. And at the time, I had to quarantine for 2 weeks because my parents had just gotten back from Japan. They went on a trip, at the beginning of the year. Like, everything that was going on wasn't really a thing. Well, it wasn't too much of a thing at the time, I should say. So they got back safely, but my mom had a sinus infection, and we didn't know that at the time. but she had a sinus infection, and so she had like a real low grade fever. So, I told, everyone at work, I was like, hey, like, this is the thing, and I had to quarantine for 2 weeks, which which obviously makes sense. I wasn't, too upset about it. But during that time, that's when I really got to play with my printer. So one of my first real build on that printer was, I think, Obi-Wan's lightsaber from Star Wars. And it literally took 2 weeks because the printer, well, one, like, I was still learning, like, kind of how 3D printing works. Two, because I don't think it's, I guess I would say it's probably an off-brand printer. The slicer that I have didn't register it, so I kind of had to put it all in manually. So it would say, like, okay, well, this part's going to print, and it's going to take 6 hours, but in reality, it would actually take, like, twice that. So 6 hours would be 12 hours. Or you say stuff like 12 hours, 24 hours. So I did that. I was really excited. I never painted it. It actually ended up breaking not too long ago, which is a bummer, but it is what it is. But that was me getting to it was all practice for practicing on 3D printing, because eventually I wanted to upgrade, and I did. I think a month or two later. I'm very impatient when I want to be. So I think a month later, I had the money and I saved up, and I got the Ender Pro, or the Ender 3 Pro, which I was super excited, because that was the printer that everyone was like, from what I could tell, researching, was like a really good starter printer. Like, if that's a very common one. So if I was like, okay, well, I'm having this issue, I could find it. I could probably Google it and be like, okay, well, this is it. So now I know how to fix it, or I have an idea of what it is. And that was really cool. And that printer actually was used in my very first YouTube video, for me making Ahsoka's lightsaber, one of Ahsoka's lightsabers from Star Wars, a fun little time lapse. So that was really fun. The time was more accurate because the slicer actually was like, oh, I know all the presettings for an Ender 3 Pro. The build plate was bigger. I think it's 8 by 8 by like 9 inches tall, I think. So it was definitely a lot bigger, and I was super stoked. And so I did that, and then very recently, actually, that I got that one probably in, I would say, June or July, I think. Very recently, like a couple weeks ago, or like the beginning of last month, I got myself an early Christmas and birthday gift, and I bought myself another printer, and it was the CR10, which is it's a lot bigger. That one, the build size is 12 by 12 by 15 inches tall, so I can print huge things now. And that the first thing I printed on the CR10 was all the parts to an Iron Man helmet, which I'm super psyched about, because I don't know why, but I really want an Iron Man helmet. And I have one. I built one out of foam, but I wanted a 3D print one. So I have all the pieces printed, and but I haven't done anything with them yet, because I actually want to live stream it. I want to do a live stream of me kind of connecting all the pieces together, and like sanding it, and maybe even painting it, depending on how far I get. So I'm working on that right now, and I don't have a date yet on when I plan on doing it. I literally last week just got a webcam to do it, like a cheap little webcam on Amazon. But I'm trying to, one, figure out what day I want to do that on, and then I'm trying to clean up the room I record in because the room is kind of a mess. So if anyone's interested in that, definitely keep an eye out, because that hopefully that'll be within the next week or two. Honestly, at this point, I'm really just trying to get the room clean and pick a day. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. It's not gonna do anything crazy. Like, I don't even think it's gonna fit my head. I didn't do any scaling on it. Like, some of the parts will fit, but I think once it's all put together, it won't. Also, mainly, one, I have a big head. Two, my hair is very poofy and curly, and it's the bane of my existence. So, I don't know if it'll really fit, but it'll be a cool thing to have. I don't plan on attaching the actual faceplate. Ideally, I would love to be able to figure out how to. One, attach it like on a hinge, so I can kind of open and close it, and then eventually, I really want to start delving into electronics and make it to where I can open and close it electronically. That is the goal, but that's probably a little bit farther down the road than where I'm at right now. But yeah, so that's really it for like why I got into 3D. I've just always loved 3D printing, honestly. It's just, I think it's so cool. I think it's so fascinating. But yeah, I think that might be all I have today for this first episode. Hopefully you guys, hopefully y'all enjoyed it. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe to my channel, Robotronix Props. I do plan on doing these kind of frequently. I don't know how frequently. Ideally, I would love to say like maybe per week. I try to throw something out, but I don't want to make a promise I can't keep. But I do plan on to continue doing these. I do plan on trying to get guests on here to talk with them about like maybe some stuff they do, crafting wise or building. But yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed this. I do have other social media accounts. I have an Instagram and a TikTok. My Instagram is Robotronix_props. And my TikTok is robotronix.props.yt for YouTube. So I try to post on those pretty frequently, as much as I can. Right now, my Instagram is kind of like a TikTok too. I share all my TikToks on my Instagram page. But if you guys are interested in that, definitely check them out. I do, like I said, I do try to post on there pretty frequently, every couple days, if not every day. So yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed this. Like I said, if you enjoyed this, please like, comment, and subscribe. And I will talk to y'all later.